Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Here, basically, we are discussing one of the topic that is city creation. In this, basically, we are discussing one of the topic that is India account. In India account, basically, we are discussing one of the topic that is SBI account and Amazon account and after 2 days, basically, the big earthquake is going to happen basically, in Gujarat. So sorry, in India, basically. So that basically is the topic basically. So in this, basically, we are discussing about one topic that is one of the person told that the Google basically software basically when it was launched basically that time basically it was nothing basically when it was launched in 2007 basically just one page was there and few select star from where condition was there and they were just displaying the data after basically the Google basically started increasing basically his user basically started increasing so he basically started mail engine then basically he was giving lots of good services and lots of UP, Bihari and Madhya Pradesh people basically was working in that software company. Then basically the Tamil Nadu people basically came into the picture. So like this basically the entire India joined Google. Like this basically it has connected to mini India basically. And slowly basically it has converted into India owner basically. So America told that basically you take the Google basically what we can do basically because half of entire India basically has joined Google basically. Even basically the Google CEO is also basically from Tamil Nadu. So you only take basically Google. So like this basically the Google property of America basically has known as India property basically. That basically I'm just taking as an example. In really basically it's America's property only. But this basically can possible basically. Because half of the Google basically is of India population basically. So that is different thing. That is basically personal of Google basically. That is not our discuss point basically. So here basically we are discussing what basically. Here we are discussing that whatever power supply that Google is getting basically, he is getting from that land basically, and he basically assume that basically this video basically Google watched. So Google is that kind of person basically. He literally will find that land also basically and he will tell America basically connect my Google to that land basically is that kind of person basically will not able to believe basically. Same way the Bill Gates basically is. Whatever thing basically he see or watch basically until basically he will not confirm basically he will not sleep basically. That basically is the comes into the habit basically. That's why basically Microsoft is reached up to that level basically. That is basically personal basically that we are not discussing. So here thing is what basically the Google is connected with certain level of land basically. So they are coming from their power data basically are coming from that land area basically. So that is the topic basically which we have discussed in previous video also. So here basically we are not going to discuss too much basically, but then also little bit basically we are going to discuss because this is going to affect to Google basically. Not affect basically, he will get lots of benefit basically. That basically I'm telling basically. Benefits means even basically the Microsoft will get got lots of benefits because Microsoft is also basically getting energy from Microsoft basically knows that his property is basically this much, so he's getting power supply from which area that he know basically. For example, if he has Windows 98, Windows 97 basically also was there. I think Windows 98 from started the Google basically, or Windows 95 also basically was there. It's not like that. So that time basically he just that time basically it's a new company basically, so he never basically bothered about the power supply basically, but slowly he realized that basically power basically can become the energy, and from energy basically you can generate lots of money basically. So he created operating system equal to land area. So whatever basically the power supply that operating system was getting basically, that power supply basically he was taking from that land area. So he connected to energy department basically. His team connected to energy department. That also basically you can say. His team basically connected to energy department. So they basically started earning basically. Slowly basically he converted his each and every application to physical land area basically. So if I say that basically .NET is created from 1,000 cities, then it would be 100% correct. Slowly, Google also basically, but Google basically don't know that basically his Google engine basically is getting power supply from particular land area. That is basically in Tamil Nadu basically. But exactly basically we can't say which area basically. But it's coming from Tamil Nadu. That basically is 100% sure basically. But which land area? That basically need to check basically. So one of the person told how that is here basically. Google basically might not be knowing this. How Sunil basically you track this basically? That is question basically. That is basically question. Google basically owner also basically might not be knowing that Google is getting the land area, sorry, the power supply of Google engine, and Google product basically is getting power supply from Tamil Nadu what land area basically. But he's from basically the USA basically. So few people tells that basically 1 lakh year basically basically 1 lakh year person also basically exist in this world basically. But 1 lakh year basically the USA was there. It was not there. 1 lakh year basically the USA land was there, but country basically mostly basically it was not there. Slowly the world basically created Sanskrit and Tamil, two language from that world basically created. But slowly basically now world basically has connected to, but power supply basically is coming from Tamil Nadu. So that basically need to check from where basically the power supply is coming. That basically exactly we can't see. So one of the person told that, yeah, Sunil, basically how you got here basically. Yeah. That is question basically, how you got this data basically. That is AI actually. When you connect to 100 data, it connects to some data basically. And that connects to one story basically. If you connect to each and every products basically of Microsoft, you will connect to physical area basically. I'm telling you basically. Same with Google, each and every products basically, if you study basically deeply basically, you will connect to physical areas basically. After that physical area basically, you are going to connect to stories basically. You will not able to believe it basically. I'm telling you basically. You will not able to believe it basically. So here basically we can't say exactly which, that is basically Google's problem basically. And Google is that kind of person basically, he will not sleep basically. If by chance basically he watch the video. Why? Because wherever basically the Google word basically are spoken basically by the any of the person basically, he immediately basically tracks. भाई कौन बोला गूगल कौन बोला गूगल that means this was in Hindi. In English is who told basically Google name basically. Who spoken basically Google name basically. Who was talking about Google? That is basically simple language. Here basically most grammar basically does not exist. Few people basically never speaks the grammar also basically. That kind of people are also basically there. So you can just imagine basically how energy basically is connected. How basically the energies are connected. One person told that yeah basically which kind of people basically there are basically which kind of people basically exist in this world basically. Their software basically are getting power supply from that land area. That also basically they are not aware here basically. Then how they might be handling the company basically. That basically we are not basically discussing that basically. But that is basically fact here basically. You should know basically from where your power supply basically is coming. Your software company's power supply. So that is basically I already told that is one of the Tamil Nadu land basically. So here basically we are not discussing too much land, too much detail basically because Google also basically have to create his property basically like that basically. One day basically he also have to create basically because Google basically has reached up to very dangerous level basically. So if he might be basically in USA basically or basically mostly basically he might have left to USA because after Corona basically lots of company owner basically left USA. Why? Because they might be tracked. They basically might be knowing that basically Sanskrit and Tamil Nadu basically started the journey of world basically. So mostly basically I will tell basically 50 percentage company owner basically from USA basically they might have came back to India basically. So mostly basically Google is also one of the biggest product, but he is basically American basically. How basically he will go? He will basically come back to India. Basically. That's question basically. But lots of people says that oh तो Gujarati है भाई. Because lots of Gujaratis has converted themselves into NRI basically, and they say that basically America हमारे बाप का है. But it's not like that basically. अमेरिका तुम्हारे बाप का नहीं है. So that is basically different point basically. That's not our point basically. That's America's point basically. If Gujarati says that basically, if they say that basically Gujarat हमारे बाप का है, then basically that's okay basically. But America भी हमारे बाप का है, that is basically very wrong basically. Some people basically say that basically. But if any people basically say that basically, we love America, we will take care of America. That is good basically. That basically is the perfect thing basically. But that basically very less people basically exist in this world basically who say that basically America we love America basically. That is basically different thing basically. So here basically our topic is what basically from this story basically what we discussed. The discussion was Google is connected with set of land basically. Microsoft is connected with set of land. That is the power supply land. Basically. So it's connected with land. That basically agree. And Google is used by more than 70-80 crore people basically in India. So that land is connected with Google basically. So Google is not supposed to know basically from where basically the power supply is coming because it might possible that his product basically might be getting used by any of the people basically and he is going to suffer basically in future and the bill basically that will be on the name of Google basically. That is possible. That is not possible basically. That way only basically the thing is happening. Sometimes basically Google gets lots of penalty basically. He gets lots of penalty. Na. If you connect in detail basically of the penalty, na, you will connect to that Tamil Nadu land from where the power supply is coming. So one of the person told that government basically never gives the detail of the data, and that is very risky basically. But you can ask government basically that give the detail of this data. But nobody might be having basically in America basically any of the basically the court basically might be having the detailed data. They might not be having basically. Why? There might be some reason basically. Because their computer basically has connected with set of power supply data and they have got some boundary level of power supply data. And in that boundary basically India land is not covered. So when computer was created, that time basically the India land has covered the all the computer power supply, and they have drawn the boundaries basically. USA का power इतना, USA has got this much power supply. European group has got this much power supply. That's very dangerous topic basically. This we are discussing here. So one person basically asked the question, which company has got the most maximum power supply data basically? There is no answer basically. Lots of people say that it might be TCS, but TCS basically came just now basically. TCS basically came just now basically. TCS basically came just now. Lots of people say that it might be IBM basically. But IBM is also basically created from one of the software basically. Lots of people says that it's mainframe software basically. But mainframe is also created by set of C and C++ software basically. And if you go more detail basically, C and C++ is also created by one of the binary project basically. That is the binary program basically. Lots of people says that it has created by COBOL basically. With that basically exactly don't know basically. And COBOL is created by lots of say binary software. So there are basically many ASCII level software basically. Hexa software basically. That is called as a Hexa software. Exactly basically don't know basically. But I read it somewhere in book basically. If you read the Unix book basically, Unix operating system, that is the very oldest Unix software operating system. In that basically they have given something basically. Then basically I was studying Unix that time basically I read it somewhere from the library book. And basically I was studying in Aptech. That time basically I have purchased one Unix books basically. That time basically the Unix basically was not there in the Aptech basically. But I had studied that basically. Because Unix and DOS basically both are connected basically. If you will read the DOS book basically, it seems to like Unix only basically. But command dir to list the files and directories. ls basically. In Unix basically it's like that. So there are many things which are common basically. So that basically are the stuff basically. So many operating system basically have got the certain level of power supply, and on that power supply only basically you have to work. On the base of power supply only you have to work basically. So you can just able to imagine how dangerous topic this is. So one person told that who is basically getting the highest power supply basically. Lots of people says that in India basically SBI is the highest basically. So you have to find out basically SBI softwares basically are loaded in which operating system. But SBI is also basically SBI also got some summons basically. So SBI is also controlled by RBI group basically. So for then basically you have to connect to RBI operating system. RBI softwares are connected with which operating system. Slowly basically you will connect to currencies department. Currencies project basically are connected with softwares basically, which operating system. Then more detail basically are there. Then at last basically you will connect to the energy department. Then to power department. Then last to the nuclear power bank. Because nuclear power group has designed the power supply chain that this operating system is going to get this much power supply. This much power supply means physical land areas are connected. So when Google was created, that time basically the Google basically don't know that basically he will become so powerful basically. According to that basically he was getting the energy power basically. But slowly basically he started growing. So his power supply basically given to some specific land basically. So his power supply basically connected to some specific land. And if by chance basically Google will read this, sorry, not read basically. watch this video basically, then he will 100% basically start investigating really basically ये correct है या मतलब है कि रहा है basically, but this is correct basically. So he will not able to reach to nuclear power bank basically, but at least basically he should connect to power bank basically, because to reach up to nuclear power company basically, even Reliance basically can't reach. Even basically the Reliance group also basically can't reach. Then one of the person told that Reliance is that kind of person basically. If he will not reach, then basically he will create his own nuclear plant basically. If he will not get the permission basically, he will create his own nuclear plant basically. He is that kind of person basically. So we are not going in detail basically of Reliance, but that is the fact basically. Because it's very sensitive information basically. You are getting power supply from which land basically? Because that is connecting to that 1 crore, 100 crore child basically. So nuclear power company know that basically in which land area basically what are dumped. So that 100 crore child basically which is dumped in basically, which is created from that 10 crore project basically of the software industry of the Mumbai. That nuclear company power company know that basically. From lava data basically which area, from lava basically, from chemical basically it has converted to lava data, and lava data basically has dumped into particular land area basically. So that land area is where basically? That land area is that area basically. So you can just able to imagine basically. So one person told that yeah basically we never thought this type of thing basically. Yeah. We never thought this type of thing basically, Sunil. But this is fact basically. And everything is already created. Basically. That is the main thing. So one person told that then basically war basically why basically the war is happening, and that is question basically. Or basically war he has stopped, or basically just in television basically whatever things basically they are displaying, that is just to verification basically how many country basically know how many information basically, because few basically news channel basically verifies that how many country basically knows which all information basically, because information is very dangerous na basically, because it is connecting to physical area basically. That's why basically. It's connecting to physical area basically. So one person told that yeah, basically that's very dangerous thing yeah, basically, which we are discussing basically. It's not basically dangerous thing basically. So few people says that basically how to draw the power supply basically. That this is the power supply, this is the power supply, this is the operating system. Microsoft got this operating system. His power supply data is this. Unix basically got this power supply data. Oracle got this power supply data. They basically know that physical place. They basically might be knowing because they are just paying the tax amount. Rest of thing government are doing. Google is also basically using power supply. But Google also basically don't know that basically his power supply is getting from that particular land area. That only government knows. That is the reason, because they are paying the tax. If they will stop paying the tax, then basically see what are the government going to do basically. Because government's income is only one, that is tax, and expenses also basically there is one expense, that is tax. Because they are also paying tax to the other group basically. If they are not paying the amount basically, then basically see basically what are the thing going to happen. Earthquake will happen, tsunami will happen, then basically the disease will get spread, then basically earthquake will happen. I don't know basically what are the things basically going to happen. You will not able to believe basically. And then basically it is going to affect to entire lots of countries basically wherever Indian nationality are staying. So one India country basically got earthquake, and that effect basically connected to many countries. That's why basically the visa process are very dangerous basically. If you are issuing visa to any of the country people basically, it is directly going to connect to that country land basically. For example, I will take very one dangerous example. Assume that basically today in India basically one earthquake basically came. So after how many days basically that earthquake data is going to connect to America basically, because that is one chain basically, and that chain is going to connect to whole world basically wherever the India country are staying, Indian countries basically, Indian nationality are staying basically. So that's very dangerous thing basically which we discussed basically. So, yeah. So in India basically today any of the earthquake basically came, and magnitude basically assume that basically magnitude is whatever magnitude basically. So that is going to affect to a whole world basically. That is going to affect. Now basically assume that basically in America basically earthquake came. So one person basically asked the question, America basically ever gets direct earthquake? That is question basically. Because India land basically is getting earthquake, and Indian people basically are staying in that land. That's why basically the America is getting earthquake. But America directly has got even got ever the earthquake data. Means direct earthquake basically effect basically has happened America too directly basically. It has never happened. So one person told that how to connect this chain here basically. This is very dangerous chain basically of the earthquake. So one person told that how basically we can track this only basically. So in next video basically we are going to see how to track this earthquake chain.